On the morning of August 2nd, 216 BC, the largest army Rome had ever assembled marched to its destruction. 86,000 soldiers, veterans, conscripts, and allied troops packed so tightly their shields touched. They had one mission: find Hannibal's army, crush it, and end the war that had been bleeding Rome for 2 years. By nightfall, somewhere between 50 and 70,000 of them were dead. Most had been killed in a space smaller than a square mile, and the man responsible had done it with fewer soldiers than Rome brought to the field. What happened at the Battle of Cannae was not a massacre. It was a mechanism, a trap so precisely engineered that 23 centuries later, military academies still teach it. Generals from Napoleon to Eisenhower studied it. Germany built its entire battle plan for the opening of World War I around it, and it was designed by a man who had sworn, at the age of 9, to destroy Rome. His name was Hannibal Barca. He was born in 247 BC in Carthage, a city on the northern coast of Africa that had, for centuries, been the wealthiest and most powerful trading empire in the western Mediterranean. Carthage was not a nation that built armies out of patriotism. It hired professionals: Libyans, Spaniards, Gauls, Numidians, men from across the known world, bound by pay and by loyalty to whoever commanded them well. Hannibal's father, Hannibal Barca, was the finest general Carthage had. His family name meant Thunderbolt, a nickname earned from the speed and ferocity of his campaigns. He had spent years trying and failing to hold Sicily against Rome during the First Punic War, a conflict Carthage ultimately lost. The defeat cost Carthage territory, treasure, and pride. Hamilcar never recovered from it emotionally. When his son Hannibal was 9 years old and begged to accompany him on a military campaign to Spain, Hamilcar agreed on one condition. He brought the boy to an altar, had him place his hand in the blood of a sacrificial animal, and made him swear before the god Baal that he would never be a friend of Rome. Hannibal kept that oath for the rest of his life. By 218 BC, he was 29 years old and commanding the Carthaginian forces in Spain. Rome had an alliance with the city of Saguntum in eastern Spain. Hannibal besieged it and took it. Rome demanded his surrender. Carthage refused. What followed was the Second Punic War, and Hannibal's plan for fighting it was, even by the standards of ancient warfare, audacious to the point of apparent madness. Carthage could not match Rome at sea. Any direct crossing to Italy was impossible. So Hannibal decided to come overland. He assembled an army of around 50,000 infantry, 9,000 cavalry, and 37 war elephants, and he marched them north through Spain, across southern France, and directly into the Alps. In autumn, one of Hannibal's own commanders reportedly told him it could only be done if they fed themselves on the bodies of the dead. The crossing took 15 days and destroyed half his army. Most of the elephants died. Men fell into crevasses, froze, were attacked by hostile mountain tribes. He descended into northern Italy with perhaps 26,000 soldiers, less than a third of what he started with. Freezing, starving, campaigning in hostile territory with no supply lines from home, no reinforcements, and no realistic path to retreat. And then he proceeded to beat Rome 4 times in a row. The battle at the Trebia River, the catastrophe at Lake Trasimene, where he ambushed a Roman column in thick morning fog and killed 15,000 men before breakfast. Each victory larger than the last. Each time, Rome lost an army. Each time, Rome raised another. After Trasimene, Rome appointed an emergency dictator named Fabius Maximus. He understood something critical. Hannibal was unbeatable in open battle, but his army had no supply chain. It was living off the Italian countryside. The solution was to starve him, avoid engagement, harass the edges, burn crops, wait him out. It was a strategy that was working. The Roman people hated it. They called Fabius a coward. They wanted blood. By 216 BC, the political pressure had grown overwhelming. 2 new consuls were elected, Lucius Aemilius Paulus and Gaius Terentius Varro. The Senate gave them 8 full legions. It was the largest single force Rome had ever put in the field. Their mandate was simple: finish it. If you want more stories like this one, we cover them every week. Subscribe if that sounds good. Hannibal, watching from southern Italy, understood exactly what was coming. He had spent the previous months positioning himself perfectly. He seized the Roman supply depot at Cannae, a town in the flat plains of Apulia, in the south, and waited. He chose the ground deliberately: flat, open country, ideal for cavalry, which was his main advantage. He positioned his army so the Romans would be forced to face into the hot August wind, blowing grit and dust directly into their eyes. Then he set up his formation. Here is what made Hannibal different from every other general Rome had faced. He did not try to match Roman strength with strength. He used Roman strength against Rome. The Roman tactic was simple and had worked for generations. Pack your heavy infantry in the center, push forward with overwhelming mass, and the enemy breaks. Hannibal knew this. He arranged his weakest troops, his Gauls and Spaniards, in a convex bulge at the center of his line. His best African infantry, heavily armored veterans, stood on the two flanks, his cavalry positioned on the wings. When the battle began, the Romans did exactly what Hannibal expected. They massed their infantry in an unusually deep formation, stacking men behind men behind men to maximize the pushing power, and drove hard into the Carthaginian center. The center bent. Then it bent further. Then it began to fall back, slowly, step by step, drawing the Romans in deeper. The Romans pushed harder. They were winning. Ancient accounts describe men dying, standing upright, held in place by the press of bodies around them. Over 100 Romans were killed every minute during the height of the slaughter. The battle lasted most of the afternoon. By the end, the plain at Cannae was covered with tens of thousands of dead. Rome had lost its consuls, 28 of its 40 tribunes, and roughly 80 men of senatorial rank. The political and military leadership of the Republic, gone in a single afternoon. One of Hannibal's cavalry commanders, a man named Hannibal, urged him immediately to march on Rome. The city was undefended, its people in panic, its political order destroyed. Hannibal told him they could be dining in victory on the Roman Capitoline Hill within 5 days. Hannibal said no. His reasons remained debated: no siege weapons, army too exhausted, strategy focused on breaking Rome's alliances rather than taking the city directly. Whatever the reasoning, Hannibal's response has survived 2,000 years. He told Hannibal, "You know how to win a victory. You do not know how to use one." Rome, against all logic, did not collapse. The Senate refused to ransom the prisoners Hannibal had taken. They refused his peace terms. They lowered the recruitment age, freed slaves and put them in uniform, enrolled convicts into the legions. Within a month of losing a fifth of its entire adult male population in a single afternoon, Rome had 4 new legions in the field. Hannibal remained in Italy for 13 more years. He never lost a pitched battle. He also never won the war. Rome simply refused to give him another Cannae. They returned to the Fabian strategy: harassment, attrition, patience, and slowly choked his army of supplies, while a Roman general named Scipio Africanus took the war directly to North Africa and threatened Carthage itself. Hannibal was recalled to defend his city. In 202 BC, at the Battle of Zama, Scipio beat him. Carthage surrendered. Hannibal spent his final years as an exile, moving from court to court around the Mediterranean, still advising armies against Rome wherever he could find them. Roman diplomats followed, pressuring local rulers to hand him over. In 183 BC, surrounded at a fortress in what is now Turkey, he took a small vial of poison he had been carrying for years and swallowed it. He was 64 years old. He had never surrendered. The battlefield at Cannae is a quiet agricultural plain today. Locals have been turning up ancient coins and weapons in their fields for centuries. In 2017, archaeologists confirmed the site of the main slaughter. Thousands of skeletons, still lying roughly where they fell, 23 centuries later. Here's what I keep thinking about. Hannibal had Rome at its knees in 216 BC and chose not to finish it. Do you think he made the right call? Or did that one decision change the entire course of history?